So,
Salam, Asad.
salam. So, we're here
Yep.
again. This time I'm with my wife, as you can see. Oh, you may not be able to, well, you can tell because she is a woman and she could be my wife, but she is actually my wife. And we're going to talk about some issues that we've been discussing and delve into the details of these topics to the extent that we can. And we'll use the Quran as our fundamental knowledge base to get to the crux of what these things actually mean. So why don't you push it on with your topics that you want to talk about today?
Yes. Yes. I wanted to talk about fear and forgiveness. And I think about as far as fear is concerned, if you could, explain to us that, of course, there is the fear of God, which is the reverence. But then the other fears that we have, is it right or wrong to fear those things? And other than what God has asked us to fear in His book, right? Fear the hereafter, fear the fire. Of course, fear Him first.
Yeah, so I mean, let's go, I would suggest first to what is fear, yeah? First of all, we need to define fear before we can accept all these other things that you said, which obviously are very pertinent and require understanding to what it means, yeah? So, what is fear? I mean, if I asked you, what do you think is fear in your mind, in your soul, what do you think is fear?
Something that makes you afraid.
Yeah, but what is fear itself?
Mm, I don't know. I
it's
think,
it's an emotion, right? I mean,
right.
it's you
Yes.
feel it. It's
Yes.
not something that you can really define in words. The fear is the word that defines that emotion, and everybody in their lives are brought up to understand the word fear, but it's actually an emotion that you feel in yourself, yeah?
That's correct.
And it's a response to either an internal situation in your soul, in yourself, or an external situation which you see or you perceive. Both of those things. You either see something that is of danger to you, that could cause harm to you. It's all a sense, right? It's a
Yeah.
perception. And some of the things that we see are obviously clearly to be feared, right? I mean, if there's a wall falling on top of you, you don't need to know the word fear, you will know what it
Yes.
is. so so this thing that we have been taught all our lives, the word fear, has connotations to a great extent to what we will do in response to that which makes us fear. So the emotion fear is prevalent, is universal. There's no soul that doesn't feel fear. There's only one that doesn't. We know who that is, but we'll talk about that later. But there's no soul that doesn't have the emotion of fear, just like all other emotions that we have the emotion of fear, right? I mean,
Yes.
fundamentally. But now, if I asked you, so we understand that it's something that makes you uncomfortable, an impending doom, an impending attack on you inside or outside from wherever you perceive it to be, right? And the
Yes.
biggest fear that we invent are the perceived fears in ourselves which don't really exist. And the perception of those fears are created by our indoctrination or our education or our upbringing, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it does not matter. So, this is how fear is brought up in us, right? It's not the actual fear that matters, it's what you fear and why you fear it, right? If you
Yes.
cannot understand what you fear, yeah, you can't even go to why you fear it, right? I mean, in my mind, do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
So, I mean, you have to determine what you fear, then you have to determine why you fear it. Without those two things, if you're just fearing whatever it is without understanding, then you're going to be at a loss. And of course, not every fear you can understand. I mean, obviously, we're not uh, beings of that depth of understanding that we will figure out every fear. We can't. That's the whole trial here. I mean, the whole thing is a trial. We're living in this life, which is a trial. And part of that trial is the aspect of fear in this world. Now, if I ask you, when did you start to fear in your life? Do you remember?
Maybe when I was a child,
Like, do
that
you remember, like, in your early days, when was the first time you feared something? Do you remember? I mean, it doesn't have to be the exact time, but do you remember when you actually remember fearing? How old, more or less, were you?
I think probably I would say I was about 24 years old.
Wow, you took a long time, huh? To fear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about real fear,
No,
right? Like,
fear
I
is
mean,
not. What's
the
real
fear.
fear then? What is
Okay,
real
like,
fear?
something that was so scary that that I couldn't even take out a
No,
sound
no,
from.
that then you're going to the extreme fear. We're talking about fear. We're not talking
Okay.
about the extreme fear that
Okay, then
what.
I would say like early in 10s, 11,
Yeah.
maybe I was
I
10, 11
remember
years
when I
old.
was 2.5 years old when I feared the first time. I still have that picture in my mind when a dog came running up the stairs of where I was living in London, England,
Hmm.
and I was scared out of my wits. And since then, I've had this unjustified fear of dogs, or justified, however you. That's the indoctrination, educational fear. Yeah. So, did you fear anything when you were a baby?
No,
How
not
do you
that I
know that?
remember. I don't remember. Yeah.
So fundamentally, we don't have
Yeah.
an understanding of what fear is when
Yeah.
we are born. We have no understanding of anything, so we fear nothing at that time because we have no understanding. It's only when understanding starts to penetrate our insane brains through insane education and indoctrination that we fear nonsense. If the proper education, indoctrination, and upbringing was imbued upon us or indoctrinated into us, then we would fear the right things. Yeah. So
That's
these,
correct.
if you look at today, what are they making you from your, you've listened to people who talk about fear, I presume, yeah, in this world. You've listened.
Yeah.
So what do they make you fear in your understanding from what you've seen? What do they make you fear today on the earth? Yeah, all these pundits and all those spiritual leaders, all your political leaders, all your scientific technology, all these lead, and the some to an extent the clergy, but these mainly, what do they make you fear in this world today?
I think the death would be one of the big ones, that
Yeah,
the
I
fear
agree.
of death, and also the fear of becoming not having any money. I mean,
Hmm.
being
Yeah,
poor and
yeah.
destitute, and yeah, and sickness.
Yeah,
That
disease, death,
disease. Yeah,
and being and poverty. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's a good start. I mean, I would say that's a very apt uh, analysis of what they're making us fear today, which drives most of our decisions. Now you come to the crux that those fears are going to drive your reactions and your actions. Yeah. So if you think that is what is to fear, then your reaction will be to try and prevent it. Correct? That's
Yeah.
what the emotion of fear is extremely powerful, and they hide it from us because, I mean, I go to the extent that what they tell you to do most today is these gurus is fear nothing. Yeah, they say fear nothing. Yeah, or fear itself. These are two of the things that I find very obnoxious, moronic, and retarded to say that. So let's come to your fear of death, right? So we're made to fear death, absolutely, 100%. Everything you see around you is geared to make you believe that we got to make ourselves live as long as possible, right?
Mhm.
And everything pertaining to death is obscured from us in general, right?
Yes.
I mean, death is hidden. It
Yes,
happens, but
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
don't see it. Yeah.
No.
Only when it comes to us or our close ones that we see some funeral once in a while. But other than
Yes.
that, so how are you supposed to fear death? Why do you fear death? Do you think what have they been taught that makes them fear death? And it does. You're right. Most people fear death on the earth today. Not all. Most
Mhm.
fear. Most fear death. So why do you think that death is a thing that is made for us to fear? What is the reason?
Obviously, because I mean, for me to say that right now is because I know the book of God, and it is
No,
because
no,
it.
no, no, no. That nobody knows the book of God here. Yeah, nobody
Okay,
knows the book of God. You have to know from the aspect of the general public. I
okay,
mean,
they don't believe
why?
in any hereafter, right? Whatever it is here.
Yeah,
So when you
there you go.
die,
There
so
you go. You got it on the nose. Yeah, on the button. So when you are made to fear death by the fact, what did you say? By the fact that
that there is no hereafter, right?
no, there's
Like I mean,
nothing after death.
oh yeah,
I mean,
sorry, yeah,
fundamentally,
yeah,
there's nothing after that. Yeah, that's
that's
what they
correct.
believe. So
Hmm.
obviously, it's so easy to make you fear. It's not that you fear death, it's that you fear there's nothing after death. If you knew there was something after death, how much death would you fear? How much fear would you have of death? If you knew that there's going to be another life,
Yeah,
the real life is after this life, and death is just a transitional state.
yeah. No, you would welcome it, right? And
I
obviously
don't know if
the
you'd welcome it. I mean,
big
this is also going extreme, right? I mean, why would you welcome death if
because
there? How do you know what life there is after death without knowing the knowledge? You're going on the basis that people have knowledge of the books of God. They don't. Most of
okay,
them will never have knowledge of the book. So you have to step back from your knowledge and my knowledge that we've been studying for 15, 20. I've been studying for 20
yeah.
years. You've been studying for the last five, maybe 5 or 6, something like that, 6 years in earnest. So
Hmm.
they don't have that knowledge. So how, like, what would it be then?
I don't understand what do you mean. Like,
It's
how
like,
would
then
it
you're
be?
saying how much would they fear death if they
Oh, they
knew?
would fear a lot because I mean it's the end, right? So you
No, 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 but they know there's now something after. We all came to that.
okay,
Came to the point where what you were saying was that, okay, if they accept, I was saying actually, they accept there is something. If they know, how much would they fear death? And you would say, oh, not at all, you said, but you didn't qualify the fact that they know what's happening in the hereafter. They don't, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
we don't even know exactly what's going to happen.
exactly.
So
That's correct.
so they still will fear something, right?
Hmm.
The unknown is what they're fearing. So when you know there's something coming after death, you would fear the unknown of what's going to happen. So what do these moronic retards do? They invent stories about what's going to happen when you die. Have you seen those stories?
Yes,
Yeah,
some of
they
them, like I mean, yeah, that some of them they say that you go into some purgatory or something like that. I don't know,
But these are
and
the
then
Christians, and then the Muslims have. I'm talking generally the spiritualists. Oh, you become one with God. You become gods. So this is all soothsaying to calm you down. That you're going to be all fine, and God is all forgiving. Like the so-called Christians and the so-called Muslims and all these people, they promise, oh, God is all forgiving. God will
that's
just,
true.
you will just become one with God. You will become gods. This is the nonsense that they feed you.
Yes, yes,
And it's all to take you away from the fact that this is the trial. The fear is to fail the trial we're in. That should be the fear, right?
that's
So
correct.
so now let's go to the next one. What was the next idea? Wealth, right? So when you're told that if you're not going to be wealthy, you're going to be lost. Yeah, it's not just
Yeah,
poverty. They make you fear not being rich, not just being poor.
yeah, no,
And then by that they make you do insane things to get rich. In what? In their system which they've created, which is a farce. The so-called financial system, which is an absolute satanic construct. Nothing in that has any business of being accepted as wealth. Yeah, as actually being wealthy. I mean, it is the most poor system ever, not ever, but invented,
yeah,
ever by man, always the same in every
yes,
generation.
yeah,
So that is what they make you fear. So then they make you do those things that get you that fake wealth. so that you can do the things that you think you can because you have that wealth.
Exactly.
Fundamentally, correct? That's all we've been taught. And so then they make you learn those insane things. They make you fear not knowing that, being learning on the computer, making chips, yeah, making cars, making all this nonsense, right? They make you fear that. If you can't do that, then you're lost. If you can't get education, higher education, and super high education, then you're a retard. College dropout, high
Yeah.
school dropout,
Yeah.
got fired from a corporation. Yeah,
Yeah.
corporation, it comes from corp. It's like a corpse.
Yeah.
Corporation are like corpse, they're dead entities. They are dead entities, and you are the one who's giving them life. And they don't have any life.
Exactly.
So all this is the nonsense that make you fear. So now we come to the fact that there is fear, right? There's no way there's no fear, obviously. So come to the idiots and the retards that say that the only fear is fear itself, right? So what
Yeah.
is that? If I tell you that, what would you think?
I would think that, oh my God, I should never fear anything. Like, right?
Yeah, but then
But
you're
it's
fearing
making
that,
you
right?
exactly, exactly,
Ah,
exactly. That's what I was
so
going to say to
the
you.
only fear you
Yeah,
got, I mean, your only fear is fear itself. So
exactly.
you're telling me the only fear is fear, and that I should fear fearing. So I'm already
I'm not
fearing.
fearing.
This is
Exactly.
nonsense. This is nonsense. So now let's look at the other one I told you about, these idiots who say, I don't, it's all about fear. They get you to do things through fear, what they
Yeah.
don't want to do, right? In their
Yeah.
minds. Or they say that you shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is the problem. There should be no fear. So now I come to what I was saying at the beginning, that when you say there should be no fear and no one should fear, you are becoming God yourself.
Exactly.
There's no entity other than God that does not fear. The only entity that has no fear is obviously the Creator, because He has control over everything and nothing can harm Him. There's no other entity under Him that can be in that position, although they pretend around the earth. If you look at the earth, do you
Yeah,
see
they
the
do.
people who pretend
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're gods?
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. I mean, how many do you want me to name?
yeah, just couple.
Yeah.
I mean,
Biden,
all these
Trudeau,
countries, like,
Macron, the
yeah,
way they act, the kind of things they say, they do, what do they think, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your
So,
voice is breaking up a little. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. You need to speak a bit louder, probably into your mic. A
okay.
little louder.
Okay,
A
sure.
little. Yeah, it's breaking up. So yeah, we're coming back. So the only entity does not have any fear is God. I mean, He created everything. When you create things, you control them, right? In
Yes.
general. And
Yes.
when you create something, you don't create it for it to overcome you
That's
in a
correct.
norm logical thinking. But these idiots are not logical. They're
Yeah.
creating things that are going to destroy them, and then they ask you the question, can God create a rock that He cannot lift? Insane. I mean, that's just an insane question, right? I mean, if God is all there is, then how can He create something that He cannot pick up? It's everything's inside of Him. So
Yep.
this is the nonsense they don't understand. Yeah, so this is fear. So what should we fear? The only thing you're supposed to fear is God, nothing else. Oh, so I don't fear. So when you tell me to fear the hereafter, I should not listen to you, because then I'll be fearing you. So this is the rhetorical or circular argument that they get lost in. What does it mean to fear God for you? If I asked you,
Um, fear God means that I have reverence for Him. I should listen to what He says and please Him, not disobey Him. Listen to what the truth He's telling me. Am I going on
yeah,
the
but
right
then
path?
who is telling you that truth?
God, through
How?
His messengers.
So there's your problem. You see, you have to fear disobeying God,
And His
disobeying
messengers.
His commands, disobeying His messengers,
That's correct.
disobeying His books. Yeah, and you have to learn what's right and wrong. You need to fear doing wrong. You have
Yes.
to fear being unrighteous. Yeah, you have to fear displeasing God. You don't have to fear displeasing the messengers. You have to fear displeasing God. But if you mock the messengers, you are displeasing God. If you mock God, you're displeasing God. You will continue doing it thinking that nothing's happening to you. And that's the way of God. He will not question you. He will let you do that. He will let you kill his messengers. He will let you mock him. He will let you mock his prophets. He will let you mock the hereafter. He will let you reject. He will let you do everything, make yourself God and Lord. And that one day when you die, or that one day when the punishment comes and you can't get off of your butt, yeah, then you will ask, why did this happen to me? And you don't realize that you've been making your bed for decades, or
Yes.
for years, or for days, or for even minutes. You don't even remember what you did 10 minutes ago that caused what happened 10 minutes later, let alone 10 years, or 20 years, or 40 years later, what happens. Correct? So, this is
That's
what you need
correct.
to fear, to be on the wrong path. And
Yeah.
the right path is in the Quran, obviously, without a doubt. And they will hate it. They all hate it. I mean, you hated it. I was oblivious to it. So I hated it as well. And no one wants to open it because it's telling us what we are. And we fear finding out what we are, a bunch of idiots, unrighteous, ignorant, oblivious beings that don't want to know that we have to right ourselves. Yeah. And unless you fear that you are wrong, how will you right yourself? That's a
Exactly.
fear.
Yeah.
Acceptance or fear. Again, both emotions, right? In
Mhm.
this sense, we're talking about fear. So, unless you fear you're wrong, how will you try and right yourself? And this is the
Exactly.
state of all of humanity in general today. They
Yeah.
don't fear that they're wrong because they don't think there's anything to worry about and everything is relative. Nothing to fear about. There's no right and wrong. So, does that explain in a bit what fear is and what should be fear?
So what about the other fears that we have? Is it wrong to fear those things other than God and what He asks us to fear? Like obviously, like a wall falling on you, of course,
So these are
that's
all things that are trials to us, right? I mean, God is going to
Mhm.
make us fear. He said you're going to fear shortage of food and fruit and wealth and soul. It's all, it makes you fear. When your eyes don't work properly, you're in fear, right? But
That's
you have to
correct.
step back and say, why is it happening? And you have to step back and understand it's all made to be destroyed. This whole life is created to be destroyed. So if you're losing something or the wall is falling on you in this world, you have to accept it if you can't run away from it.
That's
So you
correct.
have to accept the fears that are in front of you when they come to you. And that's fearing God, actually. When you accept it, you can't run away from him. I mean, the lions are coming at you at 60, 40 miles an hour, whatever they can run, yeah, or the tiger or the cheetah, and they're like 15 of them, and you're on your feet. I don't think there's a point running now unless you have a tree to climb, yeah, or a balloon to get into and go into the sky, or a helicopter, a plane, or a car. If you have nothing to run up and away, or in a machine and get away, or another horse or whatever, I mean, what are you going to run? Probably, but you know you're not going to get
No,
far. So
no.
these fears are rational and irrational. You have to have understanding of what is a rational fear and what's irrational. Irrational is when you're trying to fight something you know you're not going to win. That's irrational, and that's what everybody's trying to fight: death. That's the most irrational fear
Yeah,
that I can
exactly.
see. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, if you do this, you're going to die. Fear that. Yeah. If you don't do that, you're going to die quickly. If you do that, you're going to live 500 years or 50. I'm just joking. Yeah,
Yeah,
50
yeah.
years longer or 50 days long. I mean, so my question comes to the fact of the matter is that what do I do that I don't die? Can you give me that one?
Good luck.
Can you tell me can
Yeah.
you tell me what I must do so I don't die? You keep telling me things that I do that I don't do. If I don't do them, I will not live long enough, or I might die if I don't do them. Can you tell me something I do that I will not die? Yeah, and they will promise you. They'll probably, like today, the Google masters and these this second life they're creating in the machine. They're trying to
Mhm.
promise you that you will upload your consciousness into that. A total nonsense. So
Yep.
what are they making you fear? You will not be able to go into that machine. And they're making people believe this. actually today. There are many who you won't. I mean, maybe you
For
believe
me,
it or not.
no,
I believe 100% people actually think they're going to be able to do that.
they're stupid.
Well, that is a very, very conservative and cordial way of calling them. Yeah. So they are. This is the nonsense that we live in. So I mean, does that explain? I mean, you have to
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
is the fear. So if it's like, okay, the glass is half off the table, you fear that it will fall off. Put it back into the table. There's no problem. This is also a level of fear, right? I mean,
Yes,
my
exactly.
milk is in there. So these are like obviously you have to have the stove is hot. Yeah, I'm not going to touch it. I fear touching it. But that's not like the fear that the fear of God. You can't say that as the
No,
fear of God,
no, no.
but you're fearing it because God has told you that if you touch a hot thing, it's going to burn you. I mean, it's
Yes.
not to kill you most likely. Yeah, unless you jump into a furnace, that might kill you,
Yeah.
and might not kill you because Abraham was put in the furnace, he didn't
Yes.
die. So you
Yeah.
don't fear any of this stuff in reality. It's just
Take
a
your
reaction
precautions,
to
right?
exactly. You take your precautions, you take the warnings of God has taught you. I mean, when you were 5 years old, you would
Mhm.
just go and shove your hand in the oven without thinking. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
4 or 5 year olds do so many nonsensical things because they don't know what it will do. But once you're told something is going to harm you, that should uh, cause the emotion of fear so you don't do that. I mean, these are
Yeah.
things that you have to understand for yourselves. Everybody has their own perception of fear. Yeah, some people don't fear heights, some people fear heights. It's the way your soul is made. Every soul is made differently.
That's
Every soul
correct.
has its own pitfalls as to what it fears and what it
Hmm.
doesn't. But if you look at the big picture in this life, I mean, I would suggest what you should fear is food and thirst, hunger you should fear, and it's coming to most of mankind today. And they didn't realize that it would ever happen with the way their whole system was set up. It was never going to happen. So the fear, and that's why we're made to fast. Not made to, we're told to fast by God so that we fear. What do we fear? Hunger and thirst, fundamentally. Yeah, that is the
Yeah.
fundamental aspect of fasting. So, and
Mhm.
that's God's telling you that fear this can happen to you. And
Yeah.
that then gives you an insight as to what half of humanity goes through every day. They don't eat like most of the affluent people eat, who have wealth and means to live luxuriously like we do. So we have to understand that that's part of the thing, that you fear that, and then that drives you to help the poor instead of denigrate them,
Yes.
instead of just pushing them away as if they're useless, so-called useless eaters like Bill Gates, the scumbag, satanic piece of garbage that he is. And he'll find his way to hell. He's cursed forever. There's no doubt in that. I curse him as
Exactly.
well. And I don't care. He's going to suffer, and he's going to suffer badly. And the
Yep.
curse will come upon him. There's no doubt in that. So all like them, all these people who are rich and famous, and they denigrate those that aren't. And then
Mhm.
if you don't have the wealth, you can't speak up for some reason. Yeah, this
Yep.
is the biggest
Exactly.
nonsense. This is the
Yeah.
biggest nonsense that's been invented. So this is how they make you fear. You don't have wealth. Oh, you don't have friends. You don't have a social circle. Or you're an outcast. You're a hermit. You're an antisocial character. Yeah, all this nonsense, total nonsense. So yeah,
So
fear
yeah.
is
So
everywhere, right?
yes.
So you
Yes.
understand, fear is
Yes.
everywhere. You got to
Yes.
address it. You got to
Yes.
understand it. What
Yeah.
you're fearing, why you're
Why you are
fearing.
fearing?
That's
Exactly. Yeah.
bigger than what. Yeah.
Yes.
When you figure
Exactly.
out why you're fearing, then you might be able to. Oh, I don't need to do this nonsense. I
Exactly.
don't need to fear this nonsense. Then you end up fearing only God at the end. Yeah,
Yes.
that's how you're
Exactly.
supposed to be. Fear nothing but God.
Yes.
So
So
I think that explains it. I think
yes, it
to a good
does.
extent.
Yeah. So
So
yeah. So
what's the
now
next topic?
forgiveness. Yeah. Forgiveness.
So forgiveness
Yes.
ties
Can you hear me
into.
now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Forgiveness is a. What is forgiveness, first of all? What is to forgive?
Is when you ask for forgiveness, basically
No,
in
but
very.
what is to forgive? I can't hear you. Can you repeat that?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can now. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So Basically, when you to forgive someone means that if someone did some wrong to you, you are willing to um, pass over what he did to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. That's from your side.
Yes, yes.
The other side is asking for you to pass over or pardon what he
Mhm.
has done against you, correct? You're the one side. So the forgiveness is not one sided. Yeah. People think, oh, it's forgiveness and that's it. No, it's a
Mhm.
two-way equation.
Yes.
You have to ask forgiveness, and then you have to be given forgiveness from the one you're asking forgiveness or pardon. When people say, oh, I ask forgiveness of God, that doesn't mean he's forgiven you.
That's correct.
So look at the nonsense that they
Mhm.
will feed you. Yeah. Just keep asking like 99 times. Yeah. Count on your hands. 99, 33, whatever. I don't know what you used to do, those little beads
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
go, the rosaries and all this other nonsense.
Mhm.
You just have to ask, say, forgive me, God, 99 times, and he'll forgive you. Right.
Mhm.
Does that make any sense?
No.
Really?
Yeah. No, no,
Unless
really.
the only way it will make sense is when you're asking forgiveness of God with true intent
Yes, that's what I was going to
of
say. That
acceptance
yes,
of your nonsense that you
yeah.
are in front of
Yes,
God.
exactly. So
Yeah,
first you
yeah,
have to know that why are you asking forgiveness and are you really feeling it in your heart, like, and that you have done some wrong and for which you need to be forgiven and you're so guilty and you're asking him. And then obviously sometimes you would ask repeatedly, God, please forgive me with the same words, but that is because the desperation in you, right? Because you want him to forgive you so bad because you feel so bad for what you've done, right?
yeah.
Like,
So that applies to anyone you ask forgiveness from. So look at what's happening on the earth today now. Yeah. So how do people ask forgiveness? Why do people ask forgiveness on there? Well, most of them don't even ask forgiveness. You look, if you talk about these leaders and your politicians and bankers and they will never ask for forgiveness. They'll give you the money. They will never accept fault, right? How many lawsuits go, we'll pay you this, but we don't accept any wrongdoing. Have
yes,
you seen this?
yes, yes, they do that. Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
time. I mean, left, right, and center. So that forgiveness is not worthy of forgiveness. The act of forgiveness is accepted, is acceptable if the other party actually accept the wrongdoing. If you
Yeah.
accept no wrongdoing, then your asking of forgiveness is hypocritical, which is what everybody does. This is how they even ask God to forgive hypocrites, because they don't accept they're wrong. If you keep asking God for forgiveness for an act that you have done, and then you continue doing that act every time you ask forgiveness of Him, and He forgives you and doesn't destroy you after that, how are you going to then be forgiven at the end?
Yeah.
Huh?
Because you are not really feeling that you did anything wrong. It's just a hypocritical
No,
way,
no.
like you said.
It's just either you're hypocritically asking
Hmm.
or you don't try and change hard. I
Your
mean, look
int-
at the example of Moses. Yeah. He killed the guy. Then he asked forgiveness of God, and God forgave him right there. And then he said, I'm not going to be backer to the wrongdoers after that, after what God forgave him. And the next day, he was about to kill another guy. So this is the key. He was not ready in a form to change his character overnight. But he intended to do it, but he did not understand that he could not do it. So obviously, I'm not holding it against Moses. This is what happened, right? And we are the same. When we say, "Oh, I've done this. I'm sorry. I'm never going to do it again," but you don't know that you're not capable of changing that, and you don't try hard enough to change it after you say that I'm not going to do it again, after asking forgiveness from the entity you did it to, right? So then what happens? You keep doing the same nonsense over and over, and then keep asking forgiveness for the one you're doing it to, right? The same thing. I'm talking about the same act. There are many things we obviously do wrong. I'm talking about the
the
same
same.
act that you keep doing, and then you keep asking forgiveness, and then you keep doing it. So what's the point of asking forgiveness now when you're not intending or trying to change? Even if you're intending, you're not actually trying, because your intention is not sincere enough. This is how it is. This is how it works. And the highest person, the only person you need forgiveness from is the God. You don't need forgiveness from anyone. These people, when they tell you that, especially these idiots who call themselves Muslims and are not Muslims at all in any way, shape, or form, that the Quran tells them to be Muslim, these people tell you that about this Haqukul Ibad, yeah, that if you do something against me, I may not forgive you. And until I forgive you, God will not forgive you, right? This is what they
Yeah.
teach you. I don't know if you've heard
Yeah,
this,
I've heard it. Yeah.
yeah, and you've been taught this. What is
Yeah.
it for? Yeah, what is it for? To make yourself God. To make yourself God. Like,
Yeah.
like
I'm bigger
God
than God.
forgives me, but if you don't forgive me, I won't be forgiven. You can go to hell because I'm looking for God's forgiveness, not yours. Not yours. If I do something against you, I will first ask God for forgiveness sincerely. And then, when I feel that I have done enough in my heart to ask His forgiveness, then I'll come and tell you, I was wrong. I accept my mistake. I'm not going to ask you forgiveness. I will just say, I was wrong. And that is enough. That is enough. You don't have to say, forgive me to the person. You can. But the act of accepting your wrong is the actual act of accepting your wrong and that you are sorry, and then, be forgiven or not. I don't care if you don't forgive me or not. My act of accepting that I have wronged you is enough. And sincere acceptance. People will say that and don't mean
They
it.
don't mean it.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Nonsense. Yeah. So the God is the only one you need to ask forgiveness in absolute sincerity with exact reasoning of why you're asking forgiveness, for what you're asking forgiveness, and how you're asking forgiveness to Him. That's it. And when He forgives you, it doesn't matter who under Him does not forgive you. Has no meaning. Like, for example, the guy Moses killed. Yeah. Did that guy ask, did Moses ask that guy for
He's dead.
forgiveness? He asked God for forgiveness. He said, I've wronged my soul, forgive me. And forgive him. Yeah. So now the other guy, if God asks him, so do you want to forgive Moses? And the guy says, no, do you think that's going to make any difference? No, it will make no difference.
Yeah.
God decides who to forgive. You don't. Yeah. You can decide to forgive someone. And if God doesn't forgive him, he's not
Then you
forgiven.
forgive him.
So
Yeah.
this is the other act. We forgive people. Okay, you killed my son, I forgive you. It's a truth. I give it to you as truth. You don't have to do anything. I won't kill you. I won't enact the command of God and the rule and law of God that I have the right to kill you. I won't. But that doesn't mean God's going to forgive him. So now this is the real sense. So if the person that you've wronged forgives you and God doesn't, you're going to burn in hell.
Exactly.
You're going to
So
burn in hell. For, I mean, how long? I don't know for what act. Obviously,
mhm,
if you kill a believer forcefully,
you're going to
and the king
go.
of that believer forgive you in this world, you're still going to go to hell. You'll escape the punishment in this life. You will not escape hell forever. That doesn't matter, and that forgiveness will never come. There are certain things God does not forgive for. Most other things He does. Like He will not forgive you for rejecting Him. He won't forgive you for rejecting His angels. He won't forgive you for rejecting His books. He won't forgive you for rejecting His messengers and prophets. He won't forgive you for separating between His messengers or between Him and His messengers. He won't forgive you for rejecting the hereafter or the afterlife, the life after this creation. He won't forgive you for any of that. He may forgive
Partnering.
you for disobeying Him. He may forgive you for disobeying His messengers. He may forgive you for disobeying the commands because we are idiots. We can't do that. But don't reject those things. Those don't require any action
Yes.
except the action of your soul and your heart's submissiveness to that level of belief. Yeah, how much ever you do believe is up to you, between you and God, and you know how much you believe. So yeah, I mean, you understand the level of forgiveness at a high level and a low level is a lot of difference. I mean, if you steal my pen and I forgive you, that's no big deal. If you kill
Exactly.
someone and you're forgiven, that's a big deal, and God can forgive you. But He stipulated clearly that anyone who kills His messenger or prophet or any believer forcefully, yeah, planned, premeditated, as you call it, he can never be forgiven. The person will die in hell forever. It's like if you kill me, anyone forcefully, you will never come out of hell. It's not going to happen. That's the way of God. It's not my way. I like
Yes.
it since I'm a believer,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not. So, what
Yeah.
do you have any other bifurcation of this forgiveness issue?
No, I think this is it. It's very clear, right? You explained
Yeah.
it really well. I mean, it was a short explanation, but it was very clear. And, you covered all the points uh, that would be, because they do make a big deal about, if you did something wrong to somebody, that if they don't forgive you, then, you may not be forgiven by God and things like that. I mean, it's huge, right? So then, you take away all the focus from, like you said, like it's God. I mean, the
Yeah.
forgiveness is from God, and that's what you seek. And obviously he wants to see which one of us are better doers, right? Like who believe and
Yeah.
do good. Yeah.
But no, no,
So
here mankind loves their wickedness.
yeah.
Mankind loves their wickedness. They hate piousness because piousness is boring. Yeah, I've told you many, many times. Piousness is a boring thing.
Yeah.
Righteousness and piousness is boring. Wickedness is exciting.
Yeah.
It's the
Ev-
reality, and God made it like that. And He's told us. He's told me specifically, it will make you wonder most of the wickedness in the earth. Yeah, and
yeah.
bloody hell, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the most of the wickedness and lewdness makes you wonder. The righteousness and piousness is too mundane. Well, you just have to walk around and do right things and feed the poor and help each other and don't kill without the truth and obey God and his messengers and then just wait to die. That's no fun. We got to kill each other. We got to have wars. We got to make things. We got to get out of this earth because it's not big enough for us. Yeah. We got
Yeah.
because of this progress. Because of this progress that we're making, we got to leave the earth now. Yeah, because we're destroying the earth is not good enough for us. We got to go to Mars. Yeah. So this is how nonsensical stuff grows. And then when you don't realize that we're
Mhm.
trapped in this creation. There's no exit, there's no escape, nor flying, nor running in the air. There's no escape from here. When you accept that in your heart, then you realize, hey, so I just need to live here until I die and enjoy my life. Wow, that's pretty easy. And you find your ways to enjoy life, find the people you want to live with, find your spouse, make your children, eat, be merry, play games, day and night, pray a lot, connect
Yes.
with God, yeah,
Yeah.
ask his forgiveness for all the evil that you will do every day.
Yes.
And if I tell you, the only person that doesn't need to ask forgiveness from God, from mankind in this creation, is whom, do you think?
Jesus.
Jesus, the only one. You will never see in the Quran Jesus asking forgiveness for himself. Every other messenger, including Muhammad and me and everyone else, is told to ask forgiveness for your crimes, yeah, and the crimes of the
And
believing men and the believing women. So ask forgiveness to yourself and to the believing men and the believing women. So for our faults, for our crimes, for our sins, for what we did in the past, the partnering, the rejection, all that stuff happened, and God forgives
yeah.
all of that. This is the God that is our God. He forgives almost everything once you turn. And then if you go back to that, then it's going to be problematic. And that's what happens with most people. They turn to God, they ask for his forgiveness, they plead, and then they turn their ways to God. And then after that, they turn back because the fear goes away and they feel calm. Oh, it's everything's fine, so I can go back to my wickedness.
Mhm.
And that's their Achilles heel, and then they get destroyed.
We should never become complacent, right? We have to keep
Yeah.
every day working on ourselves to get better every day, right?
Yep.
So
That's
yeah.
what the whole idea is. This whole is a trial, this whole game. Here, this
Mhm.
life is a trial to see who succeeds because we failed in the last creation. So who's going to succeed? Most are going to fail. Understand that as well. And this nobody's willing to accept that how can God put us in hell? What kind of God is that? You'll find out when you die. Don't worry. Well, so will I.
Yeah.
But I already know which kind of God puts us in hell. The same kind of God that created us.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
Exactly.
I
Okay,
think we're
Asad.
good, huh?
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
so.
We're
Okay.
off.
Okay.
Wait,
Take
just
care.
a second.
Salam.
Salam.